Okay, all right, I'm back. I had a little bit of technical difficulty a few minutes ago, so that's why my video disappeared all of a sudden. But I'm back and I'm ready to get to the politics at hand. But I just want to talk about just something a little bit before I get to that. And as I said in my previous video, that before the technical difficulty transpired is that I'm on vacation this week, and I had a haircut for the first time since late February. Just a few days before Ash Wednesday, I had a haircut, and just like I'll get a haircut sometime next month. Then COVID hit. Then all the barbershops and hairstylists and hair salons closed down for quite a few months. And because of that, I started to get all shaggy all over. It was getting on my ears, getting down to the nape of my neck. It was beginning to develop into a mullet, a 1980s style mullet. And I really didn't even have a mullet back in the 80s. I mean, not intentionally anyway. So, anyway, I went, got up this morning and took care of a few errands and went, got my hair cut and worked out and just had supper a little while ago. So, here I am ready to do a video and do what I do best is flap my gums about some politics. I love me some politics. And there's a feud going on right now in Washington, D.C. Now, about a couple of times a month in the last several months, I have done a video on Tulsi Gabbard, having to defend her. It's not that she needs my defense, but basically the smearing that goes on and over what I consider one of the most misunderstood politicians in the country today. And boy, is she misunderstood. I mean, she gets smeared on so many times over the years. I've heard everything from she's an opportunist, she's a Modi supporter from India, she's a pawn of Vladimir Putin from Russia, she's a homophobe, an Islamophobe, a white nationalist. She's doing the work of QAnon, Project Veritas, and even one of my favorite talk show people on YouTube, David Pakman, referred to her a year and a half ago, almost 2 years at this point, as being part of the Leninist left. And I am very curious to the meaning of the phrase Leninist left in terms of Tulsi Gabbard. And if David Pakman is sure listening, could you please explain what you mean by Leninist left? I almost think I know what you mean, but just if you don't mind, please do so. But okay, let me get to the subject at hand about AOC. I am a fan of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And the thing about it is that, I mean, just like Bernie, and just like Bernie Sanders, just like any politicians who's on the left, she's not perfect. Bernie Sanders is not perfect. Tulsi Gabbard's not perfect. Ralph Nader's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. The president we have is definitely not perfect. Looking forward to seeing him getting defeated. My prediction is that Donald Trump will be defeated on November 3rd. It may take a couple of weeks to find out for sure, but Donald Trump being Donald Trump pretty much is the reason why I think that Joe Biden will be our next president. But that's another subject for another time. I want to talk about the feud that's going on between AOC and Tulsi Gabbard. As I said, I'm a fan of AOC. I sleep better during the day because I work graveyard shift, knowing that AOC's pissing off the right-wing Republicans, AOC's pissing off the media, AOC's pissing off corporate Democrat leadership, and she's frustrating the snot out of Congress, out of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I love that about AOC, and I'm like, whenever I see her on TV, I make sure I listen. I make sure I listen to AOC, and because she's awesome. But as I said, Tulsi Gabbard is very misunderstood. Now, if Tulsi Gabbard, with all those things, all those evil things that people, well, the progressives, but really a lot of corporate Democrats and even some neocon Republicans have said about her, if all those things were true, do you for real think I would support Tulsi Gabbard? Absolutely not. But here's the thing: AOC is demanding that Tulsi Gabbard apologize to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Now, Ilhan Omar is a Somali American member of Congress. I believe she's like the second Muslim member elected to Congress. Again, she's also misunderstood. Um, about a year and a half ago, or I believe it was, that she made some comments about the APAC, the American Israeli Political Action Committee, and made a comment that was kind of negative, saying it's all about the Benjamins or what have you. I'm not the biggest Israel basher in the world like others on the left, but APAC is corrupt, like everything else is corrupt in Washington D.C. And she is not an anti-Semite for saying that they're corrupt. She's a critic of the government of Saudi Arabia. I'm referring to Ilhan Omar. Is she anti-Muslim? Is she anti-Arab because she criticizes the government of Saudi Arabia and she thinks it's bullshit that the United States wants to sell arms to Saudi Arabia to go and indirectly fund jihadis in Yemen and oversee a genocide in Yemen? You think about it, the United States is being complicit into a genocide that's going on in Yemen. So is Ilhan Omar, is she anti-Muslim, anti-Arab for calling bullshit on that? Absolutely not. And her position on Saudi Arabia is the same position as Tulsi Gabbard's position on Saudi Arabia. But Tulsi Gabbard, when she was being criticized, Tulsi Gabbard came into her defense. She was one of the strongest defenders of Ilhan Omar in Congress when she was being attacked by by the Republicans, by the right wing media, and by even by Democrats, corporate Democrats who are beholden to the most regressive faction of the pro-Israeli lobby. And so, I consider Tulsi Gabbard almost a default member of the squad. And so, as I said, and AOC's demanding that she apologize. And I love AOC as much as I love Tulsi Gabbard. I do. Now, as I said, I'm not going to go into the white nationalism because I discussed that before, or the Islamophobia, or the homophobia that she's been accused of. I've talked about that before, and I don't want to repeat myself. So some people have said, well, Tulsi Gabbard gets along with Steve Bannon, therefore she's questionable. Well, Michael Moore kind of gets along with Steve Bannon too. I'm no fan of Steve Bannon. I think that Steve Bannon is a piece of shit. But you know what? Maybe these people don't really mean everything they're saying on public, and maybe people know on a personal level, what have you, at cocktail parties. Or I personally wouldn't have anything to do with Steve Bannon. But that's people will throw that about her. Her ties with Modi of India. Now, let me tell you about Modi. Kamala Harris. It has something in common with Tulsi Gabbard. Both are of Indian descent. With Kamala Harris, she's half Indian, as in from India, and half black. With Tulsi Gabbard, she's She's a Polynesian woman also of Indian descent. So we're talking about two ladies. We're talking about two women of color here. Both of them do have ties with Modi of India. Modi, I confess, is not the nicest person around, and so. But why shit on Tulsi Gabbard, but not on Kamala Harris? And you want to compare the politics of Kamala Harris and the politics of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is radical left compared to Kamala Harris. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is basically she's basically almost AOC, whereas Kamala Harris is closer to Hillary Clinton. Who do you think I'm going to side with between the two? And Tulsi Gabbard was absolutely the correct to call out Kamala Harris last year in the debates, in the primaries. As I said, the Putin thing, I have gone over the Putin thing. You know, the Putin thing about Trump, Sanders, Jill Stein of the Green Party, and now this thing with Tulsi Gabbard being also a Russian asset. Consider the person who made the accusation, Hillary Clinton. She and her husband, Bill Clinton, founded the Democratic Leadership Council, which shipped the Democratic Party to the right. Hillary Clinton she's basically George W. Bush. She's basically Dick Cheney in a female pantsuit. Okay? That happens to be pro-choice on abortion and pro-gay marriage. Okay? That's the difference. There's nothing even remotely progressive about her. She's a wealthy woman, and that Clinton Foundation, part of the Clinton Foundation, is remnants of the old Democratic Leadership Council. And y'all expect me to side with Hillary Clinton over Tulsi Gabbard? Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. And you got to look at the people who supports Tulsi Gabbard. 2008 and 2008 and 2020 presidential candidate, former Senator Mike Gravel of Alaska. The man is not a right winger. He co-endorsed Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders for the primaries. Former Congressman Dennis Kucinich of Ohio. Nothing remotely right-wing about Dennis Kucinich. I supported Dennis Kucinich in 2008 in the primaries before he dropped out. A wonderful human being if there ever was one. He supported Tulsi Gabbard in 2020. Whatever you may think of Congressman Ron Paul of Texas, he's basically a wild card of a person. I don't agree with Ron Paul on everything. Obviously, I'm not a libertarian, but Ron Paul, some things that Ron Paul is for overlaps with the left. The anti-war positions, the drug war, aspects of civil liberties as it pertains to criminal justice, and he's opposed to the Pentagon giving local law enforcement military shit, and he's now opposed to capital punishment. Ron Paul's a good man. I don't agree with everything he says, but when Ron Paul's right about something, you better believe he's right, and when he's wrong, he's really wrong too. From the Mikasa Sakasa Network, you got Nico House, you got Feria Isabella, you got Craig DePasta, Jarduda. They're not right wingers. You got Kim Iverson, she's not a right winger. You got Jimmy Dore, not a right winger. You have Shoe on Head, June Lapine, she's not a right winger. You have T.J. Kirk, the amazing atheist. He's not a right winger, although he supported Bernie Sanders, but he has some nice things to say about Tulsi Gabbard. Same thing with Kyle Kulinski. He was pro Bernie Sanders, but he also defended Tulsi Gabbard. There is nothing right wing about Tulsi Gabbard. Now, she takes some weird positions occasionally, and it has me scratching my head too. But we're talking about somebody who is trying to reshape American foreign policy to get wars. These damn Middle Eastern wars are I mean, bankrupting our country. I mean, it's making the world less safe. And we're actually in the Middle East defending some really despicable people over there. And we are enabling the United States, the way the United States coddled Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of jihadism being committed against the West because of it. But we go and shit on Iran. And as I said, Iran is hardly a threat compared to what Saudi Arabia compared to Saudi Arabia. Iran is not a threat. They have the same enemies as the United States. Iran hates Al Qaeda. Iran hates ISIS. Iran hates all these radical jihadis too. Because the United States and Iran's got the same enemies, but the United States rather side with some of the most despicable enemies because they got a grudge against Iran. And one thing, if Joe Biden becomes president, I look forward to jump-starting the peace treaty that damn Donald Trump ripped to shreds. The one good thing Barack Obama did while he was president, and Donald Trump took a shit on it. The thing about it is, with regard to AOC, she's great on economics. Tulsi Gabbard's great on foreign policy. Both members of Congress worked for Bernie Sanders. In 2016, Tulsi Gabbard was a campaign surrogate, and she nominated Bernie Sanders at the Democratic Convention. AOC in 2020 was a campaign surrogate for Bernie Sanders, and she nominated Bernie Sanders at the Democratic Convention. I mean, and I'm just sitting here telling you about the left-wing credentials, and as I said, on foreign policy, and she's doing it because of freedom of speech and freedom of the press, but she's got the balls to sit there and demand, and she's correct. Tulsi Gabbard is correct that we need to release Julian Assange and we need to release Ed Snowden. He needs to be pardoned. And she's taking on the military-industrial complex in a way that even Bernie Sanders, who I am an admirer of, is not doing. And politics is more complex in DC than it is me shouting about this online on my little program here. But that's where I stand on this. And so and as I said before about her enemies, Tulsi Gabbard's enemies. If your enemy is Hillary Clinton, and if your enemy is Meghan McCain from The View, and your enemy is Mark Levin, a right-wing talk show host, I'm sorry, with enemies like that, you got to be a pretty damn awesome person. And so, that's where I stand on this thing. And I don't think that Tulsi Gabbard is out there to try to screw over Ilhan Omar over mail ballot stuffings, and that with her bill that she introduced in Congress. And the thing about it is that I just get so tired of the smearing against this poor woman. I'm not trying to make her out like a victim, but you know what I mean. The woman is about ready to step down from Congress in a few short months. She, can y'all just leave her be? She's about ready to exit out of Congress. Okay. Unfortunately, we'll have to see a whole lot of Hillary Clinton and a whole lot of, Kamala Harris, regardless of the outcome of this election, who are both, on the policy issues, significantly further right than Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard was the second most left-wing candidate in the Democratic presidential primaries in 2020. To the left of Elizabeth Warren, only to the right of Bernie Sanders. Not exactly a bad place to be. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, I consider Tulsi Gabbard an unofficial member of the squad. She should be a member of the squad. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you were triggered by what I have to say, comment anyway. Feel free to share this content and any other content I have on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you don't have a platform, or if you have a platform, you have something that you want to say and share, please utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Please, whatever you do, more important than anything else, hit that subscribe button. And remember this: I am American social democracy. Until next time, peace, and Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024.